on that living. We'll also
How
teach
do we
you 8
switch
different
over?
techniques to protect your money from if you ever need. Does your life
About a
seem
minute out.
meaningless? Do you feel a void in your spirit, an emptiness in your soul? Does it
You're playing the
appear
pre-roll,
that
right?
there's no hope?
You're playing the
Are
pre-roll.
there issues and problems in your life that you want to
It's
break
ready to
away
go.
from and feel like
I
you
hope.
can't? Do you wonder, how can I be free from these issues that have destroyed my life? Well, my friend, I have the answer. Bible Way Hibner Memorial Church of God in Christ presents Chain Breakers. This and every Sunday at 9 a.m. here on WHYL.
From the L.B. Smith
Here we
Foley
go.
Studios, Oldies 102.9 is WHYL Carlisle.
Welcome to the Real Estate Radio Guys, your weekly source for all things real estate. We're your hosts, real estate broker John Rainville and your mortgage expert Kingsley Harmer, discuss everything from mortgage rates to home staging for foreclosures and everything in between that affect the daily real estate market. Real people, real questions, real answers. Today's show is brought to you by www.pagoloan.com, your source for new mortgage loans. NMLS number 1018. EnviroQuest, trusted for home inspections and radon mitigation in Central PA for over 25 years. And BrokersRealty.com, the easiest way to search for real estate in your hometown. Now,
Good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Pennsylvania. I'm John Rainville, one of the hosts here of the Real Estate Radio Guys. I'm a Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland real estate broker. And I have a guest host this week. My guest host is
Jesse Storm with Brokers Realty, and I'm also licensed in Pennsylvania and Maryland as a real estate agent.
So today, folks, we're going to have an interesting show, and you're welcome also to call in to us 717-249-1787. But we're going to be covering a lot of different topics today. We're going to be talking about things such as reasons why Jesse and I don't see a real estate bubble. We're going to be talking about things that you can do to help sell your home a little bit quicker. We're going to follow up on the Financial Symphony's lead in here this morning about, how real estate ranks as an overall investment. And we'll also, of course, be talking about the lack of listings still slowing down the market. And later in the show, our favorite home inspector, John Stas from EnviroQuest, will be coming on, and John's going to be talking about, one of his favorite topics, radon, because that's something everyone needs to know a little bit more about, and we'd like to keep that out there as part of our public service announcement. But how's the market, Jesse?
It's very hot. Like you were saying, we just don't have enough inventory on the market currently. You got a lot of home buyers out there looking for good quality homes. Prices have been, drastically climbing from what I've seen over the past several months to the past 2 years. There just isn't enough inventory on the market that are good quality homes.
Yeah, so that's something we're going to definitely be discussing here later. Well, you know what? Let's just jump into that lack of listings. And that's continuing to slow the market. My humble opinion, I think if we had more homes on the market, I think it would be even brisker. Well, what are you finding when you're out there in the field right now with buyers?
Well, your first-time home buyers are really struggling in that $80,000 to $160,000 range. A lot of the homes that are on the market that are in that price point are a lot of foreclosures where they need work, and your first-time home buyers using FHA, USDA, those types of loans just don't have a quality home that they can buy for that money. So, your entry-level homes just aren't there, and builders really aren't building homes at that price point anymore.
Yeah, I know. Part of the problem is that I see is some of the millennials and some of the younger generation hasn't gotten schooled as they grew up, and they're a little bit reticent to tackle some home improvement projects. And it seems to me, from what is being reported back to me, is when they're out there and everyone's showing people homes right now, whereas we used to say to a buyer, hey, if you can get 8 or 9 of the things that are on your 10 most wanted list, that that was a win. But now some of the people, are you finding where they have to settle for maybe 5 or 6, 7 on their list?
I have clients right now that have put in 4 offers on 4 different houses, and had all those offers turned down because they've gone with a conventional buyer or an investor out of fear of what work needs to be done on the homes. So yeah, I mean they're looking at taking homes that aren't really exactly what they want, where they're only getting anywhere from 3 to 6 items on their checklist, and having to make the changes to make the home more of a perfect fit for them. So at the end of the day, if we got builders who could build some new homes at a more price conscious point for first time home buyers, in that lower income entry level homes, you would see them fly off the shelf.
So here in central Pennsylvania, where do you see that affordable? If you could, wave your magic wand, what price point would you like to see builders be able to build starter homes at?
A lot of your starter homes right now that the first-time home buyers are buying, especially for the younger generation, we got to see more in the market of that $120,000 to $160,000 price point. Most of our first-time home buyers in the market that are sub 25 are looking to stay at or below $1,000 a month in their mortgage payment, which means 120 is an average number for them.
Yeah, it makes it tough to build. I mean, we know with the regulations, that the federal government, the local governments have all put on. I mean, the cost of land and then the cost of the infrastructure, to get into putting in stormwater treatment systems, that they want now to, protect the Chesapeake Bay and the different water systems, the road things that they want in now. It's getting tough.
Well, I guess that's when we got to go back to the governor and ask for a minimum wage increase, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, those are the ones that are hard to find, are the 80 to 160 that are in good condition without any FHA issues or USDA type of issues, and that's where your buyer's market is for home buyers. I mean, we do have the home buyers looking above that for their first time home buying experience, but majority, I would say at least 60% of the home buyers that are first timers are buying in that 80 to 160 price point.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing, that people are Kingsley's talked about this a lot on here, that they're using like the special loan, renovation loans, in order for people to be able to get more of the home that they're looking for in the market. So if they can't find the perfect loan or something like that added, more appliances, or even more than cosmetics, that that's something that you can do. So that's. I mean, we're still looking for inventory. This is a humble, begging thing. If you're thinking about putting your home in the market, please reach out to one of us. Reach out to a realtor. If you have questions about the market in general, you're welcome to call us today. We're doing this as sort of a little bit of a call-in show, 717-249-1787. We're willing to take any call on any real estate matter that you may have, whether it's buying, selling, investing. If we can't tell you, don't have an answer right off the top of their heads, me, I'll definitely make one up for you. So, Jesse, another thing that right on the show we heard on coming in here from the Financial Symphony, they were talking about how the investment world is right now, and everything I've always seen, and even what's out right now, is that year over year, even like the last 5 years, real estate is still one of the strongest investments over the stock market, over gold, and over being in your savings account. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when folks are saying about, excuse me, when folks are talking about a real estate bubble and safe investments, I don't know that you're going to find a safer investment in real estate. Even if you're just parking capital, so if you've got $10,000 or $15,000, going and buying have property property manager manage it for you, even if you're only making $450 a month. You can't put your money in the stock market and make that kind of return month over month. So real estate is still by far the safest investment. And when you're buying real estate right, even if there's a bubble that breaks, you know, your money's invested. He's looking for rentals, whether or not we're in a hot environment or whether we're in a cold environment. They're still looking for rentals. And if there were a bubble that I don't believe is there, and the market crashed, folks that are being foreclosed on are going back into buying rental properties, which is what we saw last time. So the rental market then booms again. Right now we're in a rental market decline in value. So rents for homes in the city that were charging $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 are starting to gradually revert backwards in price because those renters are now buying homes again, becoming more and more unoccupied rentals.
So, I mean, you know, you're like Ron White's dad. You're loaded. So what are you putting your money in right now?
Well, I mean, dirt is always the best investment. You know, so buying dirt, buying land is always a safe investment. But you know, I'm buying, you know, rental houses, you know, or large complexes. So I'm always on the hunt looking for the safe investment. Forget about you know, you're going to hear from investors who say, oh, I've got to have a 10% cap rate, or I've got to have a 25% cap rate, or I've got to have this or that. At the end of the day, if you can buy a solid structure that needs little to no work for 5 to 10 years, and your cap rate is 5 to 7% on that house, you're going to make out better in the long run because your tenant's going to stay much longer than 6 months or 12 months. They're going to stay for several years. You're not going to be investing money into painting, fixing, and repairing the home, and you're going to be collecting more income off of that in the long run than buying a house that's going to have a 10 or 20% cap rate where you're going to constantly be putting a new sink in, and tenants are moving in and out because of the repair issues. So I would definitely go for the better quality.
One of our Facebook listeners right now, they're asking, how is the rental market? I mean, you know, what are you finding on tenants right now? Are there a lot of people looking to rent?
Well, we posted a rental from our property management division of Brokers Realty online yesterday, and within a matter of 6 hours, we had 72 people inquire about a house on 17th Street in Harrisburg.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, what type of rental rate was that at? I'm just trying to.
Well, it's 17th Street in Harrisburg. So we were talking about an $850 a month rental for a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home, but it's not the best neighborhood for the house. So that's why the price is much lower. But when you have that many people, you're getting spawn over. Like the lady we called several people back, but the one lady who we got pre-qualified to move into it yesterday before the end of the day, she had an 820 credit score with $50,000 a year income, way overqualified to rent it. And I asked her, why are you interested in this home? And she said, I can't find something else in the area that I like. That's why I contacted you guys about the house.
Yeah, and that's something too I've seen on the real estate boards a lot of, that people are getting locked into leases because they can't find something. Kids need to go to school or whatever, and they're jumping on things. And I have seen that there's a trend to some of these people trying to get like 6-month leases just in case they come up with something. Are you having anybody request?
Well, we're seeing a lot of people that just move out, where they move into the home, they took a lower quality home on a 1-year lease, and in 6 months they hand you 2 months worth of rent and their 1 month furthest down the road they go.
They just skip.
Well, no, they do
In other words,
legitimately.
You're saying
They're-
they buy it out.
Yeah, they pay their 2 months for 60-day notice and pay 1 month termination fee, and they just move on. Now,
Are landlords offering that, a termination fee? Is that, are you seeing that common on the?
well,
property
with
management side?
BrokersRealty.com, property management, I mean, we do have that built into all of our leases to where there is a get out of jail free card for tenants if something were to come up. I mean, now we do work with tenants much more who are looking to buy a home, and you know we're working with them, and we know, okay, they're in the market now, so we put the rental back up and start looking for a tenant. They allow us to show it prior to them, you know, making an offer on a house, and have somebody set up to move into the house. Within a few days after them moving out from them buying a home, we work with them a lot. But there are other tenants who will just take the house because they need some place to live, and then they find someplace else that they in a neighborhood that they really want to be in, and they'll call and say, look, you know, I'm sending you a 60-day notice and my check for my termination, and we'll pay the next 2 months rent per the lease termination, early termination, and move on.
So another one of our Facebook are asking, so they're saying, Jesse, so what's a fair amount of time to look for a house before you decide to rent if you're not finding what you want?
What's a fair amount of time to look for a house before you decide to rent if you don't find what you want? My suggestion would be go back to your landlord when your lease is renewing and say, hey, you know, I'm looking for a house. I'd like to do a month-to-month extension instead of a 6-month or 1-year renewal.
Instead of moving out.
Instead of moving out, this way you're doing month-to-month. That landlord's going to probably come back and say, well, if you're going to go month-to-month, we're going to charge you an extra $50 or an extra $100 a month. It's in your best interest to pay that extra money, go month-to-month, and then once you find the right home for you to buy, you can give them the notice that you're settling in 60 days or 90 days on your new home, and make that transition.
Yeah, that's good advice. So folks, if you're out there and you're not quite finding, you know, the ideal home for you or your family at this point in time, if you are renting, you know, Jesse's recommendation is that you go to your current landlord and ask for an extension, make it a month-to-month, and that makes it a lot simpler, and you're not moving 3 times in a year or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, if your landlord's playing hardball, what I've seen with clients of ours that we're helping to buy homes and not necessarily being their landlord, I've seen folks go back and give them their termination notice, state not renewing their lease with the landlord or property management company, and then becoming a holdover tenant and just paying the extra fee that's based into your lease as a holdover tenant till they find their home and make that transition.
Well, since Kingsley's not here this week, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pay some bills. And when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about reasons why Jesse and I don't see us in a housing bubble or headed there right now, and some tips about selling your home to get top dollar.
State Radio Guys with John Rainbow and Kingsley Harmer. We'll be right
Buying or selling a home? For professional home inspection, call EnviroQuest of Harrisburg. Their certified home inspectors will conduct a thorough inspection and provide a detailed report with
So they
many
don't think
pictures.
that they
They'll
lost
explain
the
the
video.
findings. Do you have elevated radon levels in your house? Call EnviroQuest. They have fixed over 10,000 homes over the last 25 years. For a professional home inspection or radon mitigation, call EnviroQuest at 233-6144, 233-6144, or visit EnviroQuest online at evqharrisburg.com. That's evqharrisburg.com.
back to the show. The Real Estate Radio Guys with John Rainbow and Kingsley Harmer.
Well, welcome back, folks. You're listening to John Rainville and Jesse Storm. We're both with Brokers Realty, and we're discussing different real estate items today. For buyers and sellers. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. 717-249-1787. We'd be happy to take your call. Here in a little bit, we're going to be talking with John Stas about some radon and that here in Pennsylvania. But about the current market, we wanted to talk a little bit about where we see that. You've probably been watching the news, and some places are starting to say that they see a bubble in the market again. And Jesse, what are your thoughts on that?
First, I want to thank everybody from last week that's called our Lancaster office, 717-947-7031. Scheduled appointments last week, this week, and next week with me for listing their homes. Based off of what I'm seeing, John, there's no real estate bubble. We're not even back to full bore pricing on all areas and communities in Pennsylvania and our surrounding states yet. So before you can have a real estate bubble that's going to pop, we need to see all numbers back up. So, when we're looking at those numbers, Lancaster's definitely above and beyond 2008 pricing right now.
So the metrics aren't there right now. With the home prices, do you feel that they're not overinflated already in Lancaster?
No. I mean, when you're talking about an overinflated price, you've got to be looking at a price that you can build that home for and have that be cheaper than what you're selling it for. So right now you go to Georgetown Hills in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and the houses that are remodeled and in great condition, they're semi-detached, 1,150 square foot, they're selling for $140,000. It would cost a builder to build that and sell it brand new today at around $160,000. So we're not to the resale market surpassing the builder's market, which is where we were in 2008. 2008, the only reason why you didn't buy a brand new construction home was because you didn't have the time to wait for it to be built.
Right. So and so the home prices, folks, in both Jesse's and my opinion, and most of the people that we talk to on a daily basis are not out ahead of where reality is. I mean, there will be certain, anomalies of that in the market across the country, but we're not seeing that. Another one of the metrics that's pretty common that's utilized if you're looking for a housing market is mortgage standards. And aren't you seeing that mortgage standards have, were tightened up? What are you seeing on that on the lending side when you're taking a buyer and getting them pre-qualified, pre-approved for a mortgage?
Oh my goodness, John! In the mortgage market, it got really tight, and really tough there for a while, and that is starting to really loosen back up. Are we back to where we were in 2008, where just because you had a pulse and breathing was optional, you could get a mortgage? No, we're not back to that point yet. Banks and lenders are definitely moving forwards in a more secure and safer manner. But with that being said, I have specific lenders who have a third-party market to sell loans off for that are doing 40 credit scores. We have lenders who are doing, for business owners, bank statement loans. So they're, instead of looking at what you're filing on your federal tax return, they're looking at what's your deposit amounts going into your business checking account every month. What is your credit score? I mean, they're still looking at the credit score. They're still saying, okay, you got a 40 credit score, and your income tax is showing that you only made $20,000, but you've got $15,000 being deposited every month into your checking account. They're going off of a check statement, funds for proof of funds now, and these are privately held. These aren't going back to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. These are going out onto the bond market, and these are going out into the packaged market where they're packaging up 200, 300 loans and selling them off to willing to accept these types of products.
Well, there's actually a housing that tracks all of this every month, and right now what they're saying is that there's still significant room to expand that credit to what they're actually accepting. And they're saying that right now that even if we doubled the default risk across all the channels, would still be well below the pre-crisis levels in 2001.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, yeah, I totally agree with that. But a lot of folks sit there and say, well, look, we're through this crisis. The crisis is behind us. And I'd be a proponent to tell you, John, that we're not done with it yet. There are still tons of foreclosures happening. The reason why you're not seeing 300 foreclosures out on the market right now is the bond market is buying them up from Fannie Mae, and these lenders, and Capital One and things like that, and Chase, and they're holding them in a bond portfolio and calling property management companies saying, rent this.
Well, foreclosures, are another big component of what they look at to see if there's a housing bubble, and the foreclosure rate right now has dropped dramatically. I think in 2003 it was like around 200,000. 2009 it was over 500,000, and they're saying today right now it's around 75,000. Now that's still a lot.
And it's taken perspective of what's coming out of the market from the foreclosures. Because I had somebody bring this question up to me this week, and I spent a little time looking at it from the Lancaster County, York County courthouse side. And between Lancaster County and York County, foreclosure filings in the two counties together, since January 1st, there were 942 foreclosure filings between the two counties together. And that means, and when I'm saying that, that means
that's not very many.
It's not a lot, but when you look at how many of those foreclosures came onto the market for resale, 200 out of 900.
So so your opinion on that is so did the other ones go to short sale, or did the people, were they able to? I mean, I've always found central Pennsylvania to be a fairly solid area, and the people really do respect it. And if there's any way they can get caught up, they will beg, borrow, they will sell their guns, their cars, and if they could, their kids.
Well, when I say the 900 and change, they were actual foreclosures, homes that went to sheriff's sale and physically sold at sheriff's sale.
Okay.
But only 200 and change of those came back out to the market, onto the MLS for resale. You have places like Ranger Funding that had bought packages of them from the lender because they work in the Lancaster, York County market. So they in the past, since January 1st, from what I could see, Lone Ranger Funding had purchased 118 homes.
Now are you saying that they're buying the bad loan?
Correct.
Okay.
And then they finish up closure through the sale, and then instead of bringing it back out to the market for sale, they're doing property management with it, fixing the houses up and putting tenants into them.
Okay, so they're buying below market.
Yep.
And just like we were talking about earlier, it could be a strong investment. If you're looking to play some extra cash right now, we'll come to that here in a second. So the last segment, the last portion, of when people are looking at a housing bubble is housing affordability. And I still think it's a very affordable market. I think it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent. Until we cross that level, and we're nowhere near that. I mean, the numbers are huge, that we would have to cross right now on the rentals. I mean, I'm not seeing the rents skyrocket.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're talking about rents, just to bring some things into perspective, Brokers Realty Property Management, Green Street in Harrisburg, 2000. I think the address is like 2001 or 7, something like that. The 2000 block. Beautifully redone row home. The whole section of the street was torn down a couple of years ago, rebuilt with brick 2-story and 3-story homes that are attached. Homes worth about $210,000, leasing out in the neighborhood. I think leased it at $1,300 a month or $1,400 a month. That home would, the mortgage on that would be in the neighborhood of, you know, I want to say $1,200 a month. So it's still cheaper to own that home than it is to buy it.
Yeah, I know, no, exactly. While you were, I just pulled up most recent, statistics on it, and so the cost of renting versus buying, historically it's about 25.8% of someone's income is what it takes to afford a normal rent. They're saying that right now it's taking about 28.8%, so a little bit higher than historically. However, this is how dramatic it is. That historically it's normally about 20%, 21% of someone's income to afford a median home, but now with the interest rates and that it's only 17.1%. So we got a long way to go, folks, before we would ever hit a bubble.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
we've got to cross over that number.
Yeah, I wouldn't even talk bubble at this point for another 15 years. I just don't see it being that far, that anywhere in this time frame. I mean, because when you're looking at that, when I'm looking at that, like Lancaster County, where again over 2008 prices, but then you step to Harrisburg, and they're still 20% off. They're still 10 to 20% off on fair market value versus 2008. York County, Pennsylvania, and different pockets there have rebounded fairly well. You go to Hanover. In Hanover, Pennsylvania, at one point in time, you couldn't get a semi-detached home for under 185, and you can still buy them for about 130, 140 right now, which is a great investment property in Hanover. Rents there are coming in predominantly around $1,400 to $1,500 a month for that. But you come out of Hanover and come up into York City, and granted the housing prices there have gone from $1,000 to $10,000 a unit to $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 a unit for the low end properties. But rents there in York haven't really begun to climb yet. They're still pretty well stable to where they were in 2010. And your real estate market there has come up about 15%. But York, in my opinion, still has a good 30 to 40% to come back before we start seeing 2008 numbers.
No, I mean, a lot of the market in York County, I mean, just going to a specific area, I've always viewed that when the Marylanders aren't jumping over the line down into areas like Delta, those southern tier areas, that sort of impacts the market below 30.
Oh, stop with that, John. York City folks, they don't live in Delta. They ain't moving to Delta. Delta's not York County.
You have to drive to Maryland to get. But you're in Lancaster, for example. I know you do a lot of business there in Lancaster, in Chester County. Is the state line a big thing with people jumping over? I mean,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is our military and veterans. I work with a lot of military and veterans coming over the Maryland line that work at Aberdeen and places like that, because what they're paying in their employment tax out of their paycheck pays their property tax and most of their mortgage payment for the entire year in Pennsylvania. So even though taxes in Pennsylvania are double and sometimes triple what they're paying for the same property in Maryland, the house for $400,000 in southern Lancaster County and southern York County are generally 5 times the size of what they're getting that same month. So I had a client buy a $400,000 home down in Delta because I was in Maryland. So I was in Maryland originally, and we were looking at the $400,000 price range, and he really wanted a 3-bedroom, but the homes in the areas that he wanted in Maryland, what his family needed. So he stepped over the line into Pennsylvania, and he wound up picking up a 3,800 square foot home in Pennsylvania that had $6,900 in taxes. Yet that home in Maryland would have only brought in about $2,800 a year in taxes. But what he was saving from moving to Pennsylvania on his employment tax from Maryland was going to pay his mortgage taxes.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, and that's, The cost of home ownership, I mean, you know, that's one of the new factors that we've been talking about, that, you know, it's allegedly here in the appraisals and that it's going to be the cost of ownership. So actually the cost of ownership is what we're talking about, because you would have to factor in their taxes, that the cost is significantly less when they jump that state line.
Oh, most definitely. You know, Maryland's employment taxes is got to come down sooner or later. I mean, with all of the government changes and taxes and things like that, we're going to have to see a drastic change sooner or later in states like Maryland and New York and New Jersey on employment taxes.
All right, well, we're going to pay some more bills here because, you know, we want to make sure we show up next week, right? All right, so we'll be back in a minute.
On Rainbow and Kingsley Harmer. We'll be right back.
That's a good way to pull back
Buying a
into
home,
taxes
your good
and
credit
for all
rate
of
is
the
zero
buying back
down.
to
Schedule for a free
what
consultation
the real
today.
cost
And
is in real
Kingsley
estate.
Get on the path to home ownership. NMLS number 1018. Good credit sheet for better mortgage rates. Schedule for a free rate quote at Kingsley.today and get your lower rate. NMLS number 1810.
Listen for the Real Estate Radio Guys. Everything you need to know about buying and selling real estate. Saturday mornings from 8 till 9 on Oldies 102.9
The nice thing is having somebody that can
WHYL.
talk about the entire area.
Everyone-
Invest in real estate. If only the best way to do it. Hi, I'm John Rainville.
And I'm Kingsley Harmer.
And we're the Real Estate Radio Guys. We bring over 40 years experience to talk about all things real estate.
We'll discuss the latest trends, hot topics, along with tips and techniques that could save you thousands and eliminate headaches.
So tune into the Real Estate Radio Guys, Saturdays at 8 a.m. here on WHYL 102.9. Real topics, real answers for real people.
Get a
Buying
call.
or selling a home. For professional home inspection, call EnviroQuest with Harris. Experts by conduct a thorough inspection and provide a detailed report with many pictures. They'll explain the findings. Do you have elevated radon levels in your house? Call EnviroQuest. They have fixed over
Morning,
10,000 homes over the last 25 years. For
Let
a
me put you on
professional
hold,
home
please.
inspection or radon mitigation, call EnviroQuest at 233-6144, 233-6144, or visit EnviroQuest online at edqharrisburg.com.
Is
That's
there a way to test his volume before we
edqharrisburg.com.
go live with him?
Back to the show. The Real Estate Radio Guys with John Rainbow and Kingsley Harmer.
Well, we're back. It's John Rainville and Jesse Storm, both from Brokers Realty. Kingsley's living La Vida Loca. You know, I don't know. Did you see that on Facebook? I don't know. He was trying to be, you know, some jock or some sports star. I guess he hurt his knee or whatever. And I had a bag of ice on it. I think that was really just the ice from the Corona bucket.
That could have been. I mean, smacking him in the kneecap when he was trying to get back to the sand.
His wife may have done that.
Right, true. So what lender is he with now?
He's with American Residential.
And they're out of Carlisle?
Right there in Camp Hill, right there.
Camp Hill, okay.
Yeah, right there in Camp Hill. So, okay, so we have stop. John's going to be talking with us this morning about radon, and you know, once we close up with John, we're going to actually then go into some tips, folks, on how to get a better price for your home in the current market. So, good morning, John. How are you doing this morning? We're doing fantastic. We were here early. Everything's working fairly well. We're starting to get this studio software down here a little bit better on the Facebook side. So it's a good day, my friend. So a soccer tournament today? Wow. Day off.
Fire. Yeah, John. Yeah.
Day off. Oh, nice. 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 So this morning, I know we want to talk a little bit about radon. So, John, you know, go have at it, buddy.
That's it.
dividing line for, you know, low radon, no radon, or I worry about it. Okay, so explain to our listeners, you know, current technology, how are we checking for radon? Once somebody finds out that they have radon in their home or their building, what's the procedure then? What do you do to get rid of it or to lower that level?
Good morning, Real Estate Radio guys. I know, there's nothing I can do about it. It's a stone. Okay?
So what is that unit do, John? Does it just like, you know, draw just like room air out of the basement? How does that ERV? So, John, one of our Facebook listeners wanted to know. So, okay, so they've got radon. They got like a reading of 20. You know, approximately. You know, what's an average sort of cost to cure a radon system? It might be your headphone near the mic. And then, all right. So in the home, we've got radon. How many days is my house going to be torn up for you guys to come in here and fix it? How long, you know, does it take you guys to come in and put in a system and fix it if I've got radon? So is that like so it's like a one-day job, sounds like to me, right? You're in and out in the day normally? So it's like a one-day job, sounds like to me, right? You're in and out in the day normally? Interesting. So another one of our listeners says, for that fan run constantly to remove the radon. They're relating it here online to me as like a sump pump. And what's the average design life on one of these systems?
Well, John, if a homeowner has a company come in and install a radon mitigation system, and let's say 6 years down the road the fan fails, can they just go out to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a new fan and stick in? Or do they've got to go back through the process of calling a radon mitigation company to come out and replace that fan? So, John, when you're talking about installation, I've seen radon mitigation systems where they've drilled 2 and 3 holes in the floor and put PVC pipes down into them. But then I've also seen them where they sealed the sump pump pit and have a line going down into the sump pump pit to evacuate the radon also. Is there a difference between those two types of things? Is there an advantage or disadvantage to the two different types? John, is it necessary to drill 3 and 4 holes in a basement to put a radon mitigation system in? You're seeing more and more of that here lately, where they're having 3 and 4 tubes stuck down into the basement. Is that really necessary?
John, one of our Facebook people wanted to know, okay, so with the rains that we had and the flooding areas, this past week, in underneath their foundation, does that fan end up shooting water out it? Yeah, crazy week for water. Wow.
Then why did they put a light switch in for it? But wouldn't the breaker do? Are there any other crazy requirements that go along with a radon mitigation?
Now, is that just regulated on the state level? Regulated on the federal level?
Had a #1 hit with it. I want to request that song.
So one last question, John, before we go. chuck in, put a radon system in, or do you have to be like certified or licensed to do that?
Now, you said something a minute ago about finishable. So if you've got a stack stone porous foundation and a radon mitigation company is testing for radon and they're setting up their testers in that basement, that's not necessarily a finishable basement. Or if you've got a floating concrete floor, you're generally not going to finish something that has a floating concrete floor. So So it's just like the Uniform Building Code, first 2 pages where it says, that rules set forth here are subject to the interpretation of the inspector.
All right, John, well, we've burned our daylight for today. So, buddy, if somebody's looking for a home inspection, a building inspection, a radon inspection, what's the best number to reach out to EnviroQuest?
Or just a cute guy to talk to.
All right, as usual, we'll put your website up and your Facebook page on. John, have a great day today. Enjoy not having to run for the soccer tournament. Talk to you. Yeah, John's always interesting, on the radon. It is such a huge problem here. In central Pennsylvania, we do see a lot of it. And was just talking with somebody the other day, and their relatives over in Europe still consider it to be a plus. To have their high radon. So, what a crazy world.
Well, they don't smoke quite as many cigarettes over there.
Okay, so we're down to just just about wrapping out our time for this week. So, Jesse, what's the best way if you had one number one thing to help sell a house? Would you price it above the market, at market, below the market? What would you do right now to help get a home sold?
Well, every housing sale is different based on the situation for the homeowner. But if you're looking to sell the home, pricing it right, but using marketing tools like Matterport.com to sell your home. If you've never seen Matterport.com, you got to step out. Look, realtors tell you, we're going to give you a virtual tour, and it's a slide-through picture of the home.
Static shots.
That is not a virtual tour. You clicking really fast on your pictures. A Matterport is a real three-dimensional tour of the home, aerial photos, and marketing box with postcards and mailers and things like that. The Google retargeting marketing. Price your home right, but use proper marketing to get it sold.
Biggest thing I tell people right now is understand that the new curb appeal is how your home's commercial, aka video and or on the phone.
Correct.
So, I guess until next week. We're going to be talking with Weedman again. Kingsley will hopefully be back unless he's injured, and if that's the case, I'll make Jesse get up early again in the morning and drive in. But Weedman next week, and then the following week we're going to be talking foundations with Superior Superior Walls. They've got a new company name and new product line coming out. So that'll be an interesting show. So folks, till next week, it's Real Estate Radio, guys. Have a great weekend.
Don't forget, you can always reach us.
Episode of the Real Estate Radio Guys with John Rainbow.
Plug the phone number.
For more great content and to stay up to date, visit PAGoLoan.com.
Okay, so we didn't come on until
7 minutes after.
Not yet, 9 minutes after. So that's something we got to change in there somehow. 5 minutes early.
Yeah.
Right.
The greatest classic hits play on Oldies 102.9.
So is that a setting in there?
WHYL Carlisle.
Well, it's a static. It's now set up as a static video. So after
listening to the
today,
Morning
it should
Sunshine
just come
on Oldies
live. Whenever you press
102.9
live, you should have to
WHYL.
schedule it again.